everybody. I'm Nancy Fredericks with Nancy Fredericks International, and thank you for joining me on Mindful Business Tip number 15. You know, sometimes it's impossible for me to believe that I've done that many, but today's tip, honestly, is going to be, you're going to be hearing about this basic tip for many months to come, because it's, you know, the building block of success for corporations today is its employees. And so I want to talk to you managers out there and give you some hints on some things that will have you having your employees empowered and engaged and fully alive as they're working on projects. So the first topic that I want to talk to you about, and the one I'm going to cover today, in future months you'll be hearing some other ones, but today is about strategic direction, you know, the big mission, communicating it. And I know every one of you out there, because I've dealt with clients over the years that believe this, they're going, oh, let's just check that off of my to-do list because I'm communicating grandly and, you know, it's perfect. No, no one thinks it's perfect, but it's practically perfect. But I want you to know that it really isn't. I mean, there was a research done recently that showed that 41% of your population really doesn't understand the direction your company is going in, nor, catch this, nor do they get the distinction, you know, the distinction that makes your products or customer service better than anyone else. That's 41%. Now I get that it's less than 50%, so it looks like you're doing good because 59% of the people get it. But 41% is a drain on anyone's economic movement forward. So let's talk about it. You know, recently I was reading an old study in the hotel industry, and most of you are businesses, so you're not hotel mindset oriented. But I found this fascinating, and if you do too, please translate it into your business. So the green movement is huge in hotels several years ago, and they wanted their hotel guests to reuse the towels. And any of you that travel understand that that's been a big movement in hotels. And so they put a sign out for the guests saying, you know, most of the guests reuse their towels. And they waited for the results. And they waited and they were going, whoa, very, very disappointing. And then they made a very simple change. And they put out a sign that said, the guests in this room reuse their towels. This room, the personalization of it. And all of a sudden, guests started reusing their towels. And so the green movement was happy. Now, translate that and say to yourself, how can I personalize the message to my staff so they really get it and they want to be on board? So that's the first place that I would go. The second area is what I alluded to in the beginning of our conversation. So many of you think you're doing a great job. And years ago, John Cotter wrote a book called Leader Change, Leader. And in it, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. But John Cotter, put in change and you'll find the book. And it's an old book. I thought it was really relevant and is the foundation for a lot of my thoughts on change. Anyway, he did research, which I can't even imagine why he did this. It's just so minutia that honestly, there's no way in heaven that I would ever think about doing this, let alone doing it. But what he did is that there was a huge change communication in the organization. Transformation, some big event that the organization was doing differently than they did in the past. And they announced it with hoopla, and I'm sure trumpets and lots of flurry and fanfare. And then what he did is for the next 3 months, he measured every word and every number to find out how many numbers and words were used to carry on the communication in regards to this big announcement. You see why I say I would never do this. But anyway, he did that. And what he found was 0.58% of all the communication within the next 3 months on a huge initiative within the organization only 0.58% actually spoke about the initiative. So even though you think you're doing a lot of communication, I would suggest that perhaps you're not. And that brought me to the thought of, I do root cause analysis in organizations around the country. And every one I've ever done has shown that employees feel that their leaders and their bosses frequently are communicating less to them than they would like to know about. That they're hearing less about what the plans are than they'd like to hear about. With the exception of one company, and I can't tell their name because it was a confidential assignment that I did with them, but that company, the people were going, ooh, too much communication, too much communication. And the CEO was someone who understood communication was important, and every time he did a speech, he sent out through the emails a copy of the speech. Every time he wrote something, they got a copy of the article. Every time he talked to the board on non-confidential material, they got information on it. So they were in communication overload. And they were complaining about that. I have to tell you, quite frankly, they were complaining. And I'm like slapping them silly going, if that was the worst of your problems, you know, go home and sleep safe at night because that's great. So start thinking about communicating more. My suggestion to all my clients is when you think you've communicated enough, communicate more, and communicate more, and communicate more, and communicate more. Because your employees are your most important asset. And one of the #1 complaints they have is we don't know what's going on, we don't understand what the product is, we don't know where you're going, we don't know how we fit in. All of those we don't know, which is answered by really healthy, powerful, truthful communication. So if you're a manager out there, my first rule of thumb is communicate, communicate. So thank you for joining me on Mindful Business Tip 15. Know that in the next several months I'll be posting some more information about how to bring in your most important assets, employees, into engagement. And I've got some interesting thoughts for you, so I hope you'll follow. That said, much success to you always. Thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to sharing some space and time with you soon. Have a great day. Bye.